How does the Ultimate Universe survive when the extraterrestrial atmospheric pressure completely shatters the ceiling? And what happens when Peter Parker is dragged right out of the street-level actuals and forced into a massive mystical brawl? Greetings, my lore keepers, and welcome back to the Ordered Omnibus, where we intend to find out, one issue at a time. Today we're cracking open the fourth and final archive of April of 2004, and the continuity is absolutely relentless. We're tracking the Avengers dealing with a massive internal diagnostic failure in issue 79, watching the Ultimate Fantastic Four try to establish their own scientific safe harbor from scratch, and finally hitting the absolute explosive climax of Ultimate's issue 13. Before we turn to those pages, I need you to toughen the troops. So pummel your weekly poll list, punch the pledge panel to protect your programming, ping the priority prompt to process our premiere pages, and pitch your personal perspectives into the public pit to completely pulverize the platform's parameters. Let's get into those comics. Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 1, Issue 504. We kick things off with a scene that feels like a fever dream, where Spider-Man is casually vibing on a rooftop eating hot dogs with Loki, of all people. It's a moment of deceptive calm that lulls you into a false sense of security right before Morwen crashes the party, turning a lunch break into an absolute circus of mystical violence. The stakes go from 0 to 100 instantly when the truth drops. Morwen's host body isn't just a random civilian, but Tess Black, one of Loki's illegitimate children. And this possession supercharges the sorceress, allowing her to ragdoll the god of mischief with his own bloodline's power, while Spidey is left trying to figure out how to punch a ghost without hurting the girl trapped inside. The fight quickly turns into an escalation as Morwen uses Tess as a human shield, threatening to kill the host if the entity is expelled. Spider-Man, realizing they're completely outmatched in a straight brawl, improvises a plan that is equal parts brilliant and suicidal. He volunteers to be the punching bag, drawing Morwen's physical aggro to buy Loki the split second he needs to work his magic. Now, while Peter gets hammered, Loki bypasses the physical defenses and invades Tess's mind, coaching his daughter to fight back from the inside. And the gambit pays off at the last possible second, with Tess rejecting the parasite and expelling Morwen just before Spidey gets turned into paste. And in the aftermath, the dynamic shifts from the chaotic battle to a strange, uneasy alliance. Loki immediately spirits Tess away, promising to protect her from any future mystical blowback. But Spidey, being a responsible hero, isn't satisfied with "trust me," especially from the God of Lies. He tracks Tess to her own home only to find it abandoned, leading to a final confrontation where Loki appears not to fight, but to settle up. He hands Peter a token, a literal divine IOU, solidifying a bizarre friendship where the wall-crawler walks away realizing he low-key has a Norse god on speed dial for the next time he needs to save the world. Avengers, Volume 3, Issue 79. We open in the immediate brutal aftermath of the battle where the emotional fallout is turning into an absolute circus. Captain America, usually the stoic leader, completely loses his cool and starts screaming at Hawkeye for bringing Kelsey's children into the room to see their mother's dead body. And of course the kids freak out, traumatized by the sight, while She-Hulk tries to do some damage control. And strangely, the blame falls entirely on Clint, with no one calling out Jen despite her being right there, creating a fractured dynamic that proves the team is operating on raw nerves. And while Cap takes the son, Martin, for a walk to process the grief, the rest of the team stands around trading war stories about loss. That quickly turned toxic. The tension shifts from grief to petty infighting as the group discusses the difficulty of living without a mother. And Hank Pym, displaying zero social awareness, dismisses the severity of the situation, which prompts Hawkeye to immediately bring up the fact that Hank used to beat on Jan. It is a moment of pure melodrama that derails the conversation, with Hank shocked that his darkest secret is open knowledge among the team. Really? This argument breaks the group apart, driving an angry and guilt-ridden Hawkeye to storm off and grab a set of special arrows, weapons forged by Thor specifically for fighting high-level threats that were inexplicably given to Iron Man instead of the team's archer. Hawkeye heads down to the holding cells looking for a fight to vent his frustration and walks right into a brawl. The Wrecking Crew is in the middle of their own internal crisis, with Thunderball acting possessed and losing his mind over the reference to a mysterious female employer. Clint interrupts the chaos by shooting Thunderball with one of the God Killer arrows, but the plan backfires instantly. and Thunderball slams the arrow against the cell door, causing an explosion that defies physics and allows the crew to absolutely ragdoll the Archer. And the issue closes on a mystical cliffhanger as a shadowed figure in white glove appears above Kelsey's body in the morgue, declaring that Avalon needs her, setting the stage for a resurrection that will change the game completely. Marvel Knights 4, Volume 1, Issue 2. The fall from grace for the Fantastic Four is immediate and brutal. We aren't seeing them fighting Doctor Doom or Annihilus, we're seeing them get rejected by landlords who don't want their insurance premiums skyrocketing because a supervillain might attack their building. It is a grounded and humiliating reality check that lands them at Hotel Cheshire in Washington Heights simply because the owner had a good heart. But the close quarters immediately causes friction as Johnny Storm, accustomed to the high life, refuses to share a room with his nephew and the Thing, leading him to storm off in a huff. And meanwhile, Reed is completely disassociating, obsessively reciting chemical formulas while packing, unable to emotionally process that he's failed his family. As they try to integrate into the workforce, the juxtaposition between their powers and their new jobs is hilarious and also kind of sad. Sue Storm is working as an English teacher, and when a student tries to hit her with a spitball, she doesn't lecture him. She threatens to turn his clothes invisible. And it's a perfect example of using godlike powers for classroom management. Johnny, however, takes another hit when his girlfriend Courtney dumps him mid-rescue, effectively leaving him homeless and single. And then we have Ben Grimm, who stops a high-speed police chase during a coffee run, but instead of feeling heroic, he's terrified his boss is going to dock his pay for taking too long. The emotional weight of the story really crashes down when Reed's obsession with fixing their finances causes him to forget the most important thing, his son. He leaves Franklin waiting at school because he's too busy trying to build an algorithm to manipulate the stock market. Sue has to snap him out of it and reminds him that being the smartest man alive doesn't matter if he can't be a present father. The issue ends on a somber note in the rain with Johnny realizing his friends only liked him for his money. And Ben tries to cheer him up by telling him that moping is for the X-Men. But the tragedy is that while Ben has total faith in Reed, we see that for the first time, Mr. Fantastic is completely out of ideas. Mystique, Volume 1, Issue 11. Fellow Fanatics, this story opens in what might be the most uncomfortable date in X-Men history. Forge and Mystique are in a diner in Brooklyn, and the tension is palpable. Forge is trying to be nice, but Raven is only there because Xavier is blackmailing her with Homeland Security. The bickering is interrupted by a frantic news report, an Amber Alert for a missing boy named Spencer Bronson. Initially, Mystique couldn't care less, but the moment they reveal the kid has a third eye, she's all in. She hates how media vilifies mutants, and she even drops a specific reference to the teenage runaways in Los Angeles who were accused of murder. If you've been watching our previous coverage, you know exactly who she's talking about. Bride's Kids, and it really helps flesh out the shared universe of Marvel during that era. Forge goes full MacGyver, turning an old TV antenna into a Wi-Fi tracker, and they hunt down the father's location. When they track the father, Anthony Bronson, down to a brownstone, the script gets completely flipped because Mystique tries to play the bad cop to rescue the kid, but it turns out that Spencer isn't a victim at all. The boy has a powerful mind control ability and has been puppeteering his own father to keep him away from his mother. It's a terrifying twist because the dad is fully aware but is absolutely helpless to stop it. The issue ends on a brutal cliffhanger where the 12-year-old decides he's done playing nice and takes control of Forge's mind, forcing the two veteran X-Men to fight each other while a child pulls the strings. Silver Surfer, Volume 4, Issue 6. What's going on, archivists? We kick things off in the deep end of the cosmic pool where the Silver Surfer is floating in a void filled with disembodied eyes, which is about as trippy as a Pink Floyd laser show. Norrinrat is having a serious identity crisis, piecing his memory back together while the alien's intelligence tells him that the children he's taking care of are safe. We learn that young Gabe has to stay behind because he's destined to be a great leader, but little Ellie gets a ticket straight home. It's a tearful goodbye for the kids, but the server scoops up Ellie and blazes a trail back to Earth, leaving a singularity in his rearview mirror. Meanwhile, down in the Louisiana bayou, things are decidedly more grounded and gritty. We follow Denise Walters, who's looking like she's gone 12 rounds with life and lost every single one of them. Her friend Morin drags her to see Annie, a local mambo, hoping for some spiritual healing. Denise is drowning in grief over her missing daughter. It's a heavy emotional scene where she admits that she's just driftwood waiting to sink. But just as she hits rock bottom, the government picks up on an anomaly entering the atmosphere. Acheron and his goons are scrambling, but the surfer is way faster than bureaucratic red tape. The climax hits us right in the feels when the surfer materializes inside of Annie's shack, looking like a chrome angel. He reunites Ellie with his mother, and in a moment of pure cosmic benevolence, he uses his power cosmic to purge the sickness and addiction right out of Denise's body. It's a straight up miracle, capped by the revelation that Ellie, who couldn't speak before, is now talking. But because we can't have anything nice in the Marvel Universe for more than 5 seconds, the moment is shattered as a SWAT team surrounds the house, turning a divine intervention into a standoff. Spectacular Spider-Man, Volume 2, Issue 10. We pick up right where the tension is at its peak in Times Square. Dr. Octopus thinks that he has won and claims that Mr. Zarur is as good as dead, but he forgot that Peter Parker is often steps ahead of him. The wall crawler directs everyone to a massive screen above the square where he sees Big John Anderson dressed as the Kiwi Kid. He's broadcasting live footage of the minister being escorted to safety by Detective Neil Garrett. It's a classic misdirection play. While Ock is grandstanding, Spidey has his allies, including unseen Israeli Secret Service agents, secure the target. Realizing his master plan has crumbled, Octavius does not take it well. He starts tossing cars around like toys before retreating into the city's sewer. Spidey gives chase immediately, but he's not alone because a brave NYPD officer follows them down into the darkness. This leads to a truly horrific moment. Just as Spider-Man thinks he's gaining the advantage, Ock snatches the officer. Peter tries to reason with him, but Otto is past the point of negotiation. He snaps the officer's neck right in front of the hero. It's a brutal reminder of just how dangerous this villain really is. The tragedy snaps something inside of Peter. Even when he's wrapped up in tentacles and seemingly at Ock's mercy, he refuses to stay down. He delivers a savage headbutt and literally rips the mechanical arms out of his opponent. He pummels Octavius until the villain is begging for his life, proving that an angry Spider-Man is a terrifying force of nature. We close out the issue back at Peter Parker's apartment where Mary Jane is patching Peter up. She admits that her favorite part was the Kiwi Kid, which triggers a sudden realization in Peter. He totally forgot Big John back in Brooklyn. Ultimate Fantastic Four, Volume 1, Issue 3. Lore Keepers, we are staring down the chaotic aftermath of the End Zone Initiator's catastrophic failure, and the immediate fallout is absolutely brutal. Right at the center of the smoldering platform crater, Reed Richards is losing all physical cohesion as his body stretches into impossible, unnatural lengths. When General Ross's military detail swarms the area, they mistake the disfigured scientist as an invading entity and open fire, only to watch this newly pliant anatomy absorb and reflect the bullets harmlessly. Meanwhile, a devastated Dr. Franklin Storm receives a shocking confirmation that Ben Grimm survived the blast, but was violently teleported to Mexico City and transformed into a hulking rock-covered monstrosity. Halfway across the globe in a French hospital, Johnny Storm awakens completely disoriented and terrified. His agitation spikes, his body temperature goes critical until he literally bursts into flames, melting the room's medical equipment before the emergency sprinklers finally extinguish the inferno. And back at the Baxter Building in New York, Dr. Storm is relieved by the news of Johnny's survival. But Sue and Victor Van Dam are still missing. Reed, analyzing the situation, deduces that Victor secretly altered the teleport's spatial coordinates following their fierce computational arguments. He theorizes that this bizarre physical mutation perfectly mirrors the four classical elements of creation: earth, air, fire, and water. And deep in the uncharted underground cavern, Sue Storm finally regains consciousness, only to discover her own body is phasing into a partially translucent, invisible state. Before she can even process this terrifying new reality, she's discovered by her former scientific instructor, Arthur Molkovic, who's flanked by a colony of bizarre mutant drones. The board is officially set for this gritty, high-stakes origin story that pushes these characters to their absolute breaking point. And where the heck is Victor? X-Statix, Volume 1, Issue 19. We dive back into the media-obsessed world of the X-Statix, where Miles Alfred, better known as the Vivisector, is living the high life. He's dating a teen soap star, Brandon Cody, and the paparazzi can't get enough of him. But there's a shallow undercurrent here. Brandon pressures Miles to fur up for the cameras, treating his mutation like a party trick rather than a biological reality. Miles actually has to visualize George W. Bush's face just to trigger the anger needed for the transformation. And meanwhile, a scientist named Dr. Alex Finlay leaves Professor Xavier's employment, ignoring Charles's warning about the myths of Icarus and hubris. Finlay has developed a cure for Miles' mutation, pitching it not as a medical necessity, but as a way for Miles to escape the monsters that his father despises. The tension within the team explodes when Miles considers the procedure. The anarchist and the rest of the squad see this as a betrayal, arguing that curing mutancy implies that it's a disease to be ashamed of. Tyke Alucard takes a step further, bullying Miles by throwing acidic sweat on him until Miles snaps, transforming and slashing at Tyke's face. Despite the violence, or perhaps because of it, Miles goes through the procedure on live television alongside Lacuna. And in a dramatic demonstration, Finley burns Miles's rare first edition books, including works like Emily Dickinson and Robert Frost, to provoke a reaction. Miles screams in rage, calling Finley a Nazi, but the fur never comes. The vivisector has been exorcised, leaving Miles completely human. Now, the fallout is immediate and completely cynical. Brandon Cody dumps Miles in the moment he loses his powers, admitting that he was only there for the fame and the edge of dating a werewolf. To make matters worse, the ecstatic team evicts Miles from the headquarters because, quite simply, he isn't a mutant anymore. He tries to argue that he can be their chronicler, but they leave him behind for a mission in Newfoundland. The issue closes with a dark twist that defines this series. Dr. Finlay reveals to his girlfriend that he didn't just destroy Miles' X gene, he extracted it. He plans to inject himself with the serum, becoming the new vivisector and stealing the fame that Miles just gave up. The Ultimates, Volume 1, Issue 13. The finale of the arc is absolutely chaos in the best way possible. Nick Fury and Captain America execute a desperate plan by dropping a bound Bruce Banner out of a helicopter, effectively weaponizing the Hulk as a weapon of last resort. And when the dust settles and the green Goliath emerges, Captain proves why he's the tactical leader of the team. He realizes that he can't beat Herr Kleiser physically, so he manipulates the Hulk's rage. He points at the alien commander and lies on him, telling the Hulk that the Kleiser was all over Betty Ross while Banner was in solitary. It is a brilliant, morally gray move that works instantly. The Hulk doesn't care about the Chitauri invasion or the world peace. He just wants to destroy the guy who touched his girlfriend. Kleiser tries to use logic, claiming superior experience, but the Hulk's response is perfect. You were the stupid one. You made Hulk angry. And while the Hulk is literally tearing Kleiser apart and eventually eating him, the rest of the team is handling the doomsday scenario. This is a great character moment where Black Widow thinks Iron Man is going to sacrifice himself to fly the bomb into space. But Tony, ever the pragmatist, just has Thor teleported to the dimension of Nastro. Crisis averted. However, the immediate problem becomes the Hulk, who's still on a rampage. On Fury's order, Hawkeye has to take the shot, firing a tranquilizer arrow into the Hulk. It is an incredibly tense moment where the Hulk reverts to Bruce Banner right on top of the terrified Clint Barton. The threat is neutralized, but the reality of what they just did, using an uncontrollable monster to fight their battles, lingers heavily with the team. The aftermath deals with the complexities of being celebrity superheroes in the Ultimate Universe. We see a sickening realization for Banner when he learns that he's consumed a sentient being, leading S.H.I.E.L.D. to having to monitor his waste to ensure Herr Kleiser doesn't regenerate. Ew! But the emotional core lands during the White House victory party. Hank Pym, disgraced and exiled, calls Janet to try to touch base, but she asserts her independence and refuses to let him back into her life. This leads to a genuine moment between Steve Rogers and Janet Van Dyne. Cap apologizes for the friction between them and they share a dance and a kiss on the balcony. It ends the series on a high note, even as we see public opinion polls already suggesting that people think the government faked the invasion, setting up a cynical world for the Ultimates too. And that draws the curtain on the final part of our April 2004 deep dive, bringing an incredibly dense and punishing month of continuity to a close, my archivists, and what a completely brutal month of timeline wreckage it's been. Forcing us to watch the Fantastic Four lose their fortune, the Avengers suffering a heartbreaking casualty, and the Ultimates level a major city to secure the perimeter. But don't close that archive just yet, because the timeline never sleeps and we're marching straight into May. Next time we'll be diving into a brand new month of lore, tracking the Runaways as they hit a massive internal conflict in issue 12, watching a completely new atmospheric pressure form in the debut of Alpha Flight Volume 3, analyzing a massive dimensional extraction in Exiles 44, and breaking down a heavy collision of continuity in the Avengers and Thunderbolts miniseries premiere. Make sure to keep your reading order strict and your continuity cataloged. These are the issues we'll be covering next week. Same ordered time, same ordered omnibus.